Welcome to the open house presentation for computer literacy. And in this presentation, I will try to anticipate and answer some questions that you might have about this class. So we will start over here with what is this class actually about. And the main idea here at our classroom blog is to explore a variety of tools and techniques that we use in technology, and then use those tools to create original works, which we will then share. And after we've had a chance to experience them, we'll evaluate those tools. Here's what our classroom blog actually looks like. And over here on the right-hand side, you can see there's an archive, so students can go back and click on previous weeks and complete work. What have we learned to do so far? Well, in just a little over 4 weeks, we have explored all of these different programs, and we have used them to create some projects. 5 to date, and starting with this one, which it was basically just practice on capturing different creations in some starting programs. And then we went on to create concept maps that explained a little bit about who we were, things that were important to us in this inner ring, and then the reasons why those things were important to us out here. You can see my example. Next, we started looking at photo collage software on the web just by uploading clip art and arranging them in backgrounds. And then in our fourth project, we added some text and customized a little bit about how this looked, chose our own backgrounds and our own fonts and colors. And then today we pretty much finished up our fifth project, which is a variety of photo manipulations done using Sumo Paint. And you can see we created some original works, symmetry and shapes. And then we used some of the tools in PhotoVisi to wrap images in spheres and cubes. And today we learned a little bit about how to transform text and how to alter images. So how do we actually share the work that we do? Well, we have folders on the web that are collaborative, and all students are able to upload their works into those folders. This is an example of what the demo folder that I've created looks like, and it shows the contents of each of the projects that we've done. And then we also share by adding comments as we go through the day. And you can see here's the most recent comments here. Students can post at any time anonymously anything that they're thinking about the class, or share links and things that they found or discovered. And then I add comments out here in the margins, and we read and discuss those at the beginning of each class period. Okay, so how do we actually evaluate these tools? Students complete a weekly reflections form every Friday, and in that form they evaluate on scales of 1 to 5 each of the different tools that we've used that week. And what you're looking at are the actual results from this semester. So you can see in general these bars over here, 5 rating seems to be the highest. Over here Prezi, which they've only had just a few short experiences with, isn't rated quite as high, but they'll get used to this program. It's very useful. And that's the program that I'm using to show you this presentation. Next, we looked at a couple other programs, and you can see that I show them the actual percentages for the highest ratings, that is a 4 or 5, and you can see that Flame Painter is a very popular program here. Hopefully your students are telling you about some of these things when they get home at night. Here's reflections from week 3, last week, week 4, and then at the very end of the course, we'll go in and look at 2 main things. How much do you think you're learning in class, and are those things useful to you, or do you expect that they will be in future classes? So here's last spring. In general, these are pretty good trends. You can see that they sweep upwards towards I learned a lot, and at the beginning of this semester, or I'm sorry, at the end of the spring 2012 semester, you can see that about a third of the students rated this class a 10 in terms of how much they learned. And then how useful were those things in class? You can see that about a little under 20% rated it a 10 also. So those are pretty good numbers. But as the school network has improved, and as new tools have developed on the web, things are constantly changing and evolving. You can see that over time, these numbers have actually gone up until last spring, where nearly half the students rated it a 10. You can see this curve is very skewed over towards the right. And even more impressive, I think, is 50% of the students rated it a 9 or 10 in terms of how useful these things might be in the future. And that requires quite a bit of projection into what students think they'll be doing and whether or not they think these tools will be useful to them. What can you do as a parent to help your child succeed? Well, I think the first thing is to just ask them to tell you about or show you the things they're creating or learning. Many of the students are really excited about what their capabilities are and the things that they can produce that really look good using these tools. And if you ask them to share them, I think that will keep their enthusiasm high. Even better, you can ask them to teach you how to do these things, and they'll learn a lot more about these programs, and you'll be able to help them perhaps in the future if they explain or teach you how to use them. Then just browse the blog and kind of keep an eye on what's going on. Even when students are absent, everything that we do is web-based, so they should be able to keep up just by accessing the stuff at home if they can. And then there are some notes at the beginning of each week that are specifically for parents, and these notes basically tell you that everything that we do in class is listed on the blog. Nearly every assignment can be completed at home. Fridays are makeup days, so students who have trouble or maybe aren't quite as good with technology have that extra day to get caught up on any of the projects that they're missing. And then there's like a public examples folder link that shows what everything should look like. So you can ask your students to show you what they've made and then compare that with what these sample projects should look like. What's really the ultimate objective of this course? Well, it's really geared towards the future, towards increasing comfort and familiarity with technology tools. And as a final project, we create a resource kit, which is hopefully designed to give them the tools that they need from this class to create projects in their core classes in the future. And this is an example of the final project from last semester. There are 20 programs in here that are, there are examples and links to each. So I'm just going to zoom in and look at the beginning part, and even a little closer to the very first program. So each step here will have an example that's original, that's created by the student, the name of the program, and a link to the program so that in the future they can go back if they want to use these tools to create something in a project for some other class. How are students evaluated? 60% comes from projects, and that's why it's so important that students and parents and guardians keep an eye on what these projects should look like. 40% comes from participation, warm-ups, and reflections. Who am I? What are my qualifications and experience? Here are my current certifications. I have 3. Technology applications is the most recent, and science and general special education lifetime certificate. If you're curious about how to check this information on any of the teachers that your student has, here's a link that will take you to the site, TEA, where you can look them up and check their certifications. And then here's my personal profile on Google+, a little bit about where I went to school, Penn State and Texas State for teacher certification, and my past work experience. I've only really ever had 2 jobs. In the Marines for 12 years, I was a pilot and flight instructor, and that's what I guess gave me my first thirst for technology. And then after spending 12 years preparing for the worst, I thought I would spend at least as much time preparing for the best, which is how I got involved in education. And I've been at Bastrop Middle School ever since, about 17 years. What resources are available to help me stay informed on what's happening in class, at the campus, and in the district? First of all, there is the classroom website, and at that blog you can find all of these materials: our campus website, our campus calendar, campus Twitter account, district website, and district calendar. For the last part, I will try to answer any questions that you might have, and I will show you some student work examples in these 2 slideshows.